As one TV show famously put it, space is the final frontier. Sure, life on Earth is great and all, but eventually we're going to use up all of this planet's resources. If the human race wants to survive, then we have to figure out where we're going to go from here. Or maybe the Earth will overpopulate and force us to consider living on another planet. Right now, Mars seems to be the most viable option. Elon Musk, one of the most incredible minds in the world, has looked up to the stars and set his sights on the red planet. Stick around until the end to find out how much Elon plans on charging to relocate people to Mars. Given that Elon is so smart and has a net worth in the billions, he has endless resources when it comes to colonizing Mars. Under his company SpaceX, Elon released his plans for this endeavor in a talk that he gave back in October 2017. He even published an academic paper on the matter. According to his plans, the colonization of Mars should involve 1 million people, which is about the size of a large city. The first thing he wants to do, which will be the foundation of colonizing Mars, is to build a starship. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, it was previously known as the Big Falcon rocket, or the BFR. The Starship will be a 35-story space vehicle that he had planned to start building at the beginning of 2018. While we have no word on when exactly it'll be completed, Elon intends to launch the first commercial Starship in 2023. Elon's specialty is transportation and technology, so he wants to make sure that colonizers can get around with state-of-the-art space vehicles. Not only will his Starship provide flights to Mars, but he hopes to also use the spaceship for high-speed transportation around the world. And he's not joking about the high-speed part. For example, a trip from Los Angeles to New York City would only take about 25 minutes. And since he's using the technology from the Mars Starship as a basis, Elon figured out a way to use material that's already at his disposal for this endeavor. Elon thinks that humans can be a multi-planetary species, but more importantly, it would ensure the survival of the human race should there ever be a third world war. What concerns a lot of people these days is the fact that nuclear tensions are on the rise. According to Elon, Mars is just far enough away from the Earth that should there be nuclear warfare, the red planet wouldn't be negatively affected by it. This would be more efficient than attempting a moon base because the moon is reportedly too close to the Earth to not feel some nuclear impact. So this means that Mars wins when it comes to the battle of where will humans live. Elon also has a theory that unregulated artificial intelligence is more likely to lead to the demise of humans than a third world war involving nuclear arms. In fact, a third world war would most likely involve AIs trying to take over the world. But basically, if and when the next world war happens, Earth will be plunged into the dark ages, and Elon wants to be prepared. What is also necessary in the plans for colonizing Mars is the fact that Elon needs money to pay for it. Even though SpaceX seems to have a lot of money, they're investing in some of the most expensive endeavors. If you want to get a trip on the Starship and relocate to Mars, it's going to cost you a lot of money. According to Elon's academic paper, the optimistic cost will be about $10 billion per person. In case you're wondering, Elon is well aware that a price tag like that won't help the survival of mankind. But if you want to compare this ticket to the Apollo moon missions of the past, that program cost about $100 to $200 billion in today's dollars, and we only sent 12 people to the moon. Granted, NASA was getting some funding from the government, but Elon doesn't want the mission to Mars to be a survival of the richest sort of situation. This is why Elon wants to make the Starship as cost-effective as possible, along with being efficient. His goal is to get the cost down to the average median home price, which is about $200,000. We can already see it now. Instead of financing for buying a house, people will be financing to pay for their relocation to Mars. It doesn't sound too crazy when we put it that way, now does it? The biggest thing that people have to keep in mind when they decide to move to Mars is that there's no promise that they will ever be able to return to Earth. At least that's the case for the early stages. When looking at the simulation photos, it seems that people will be living under a dome, which we assume will be pumped with oxygen and pressurized so that they can live safely. While Elon wants to make Mars a new home for humans, he's truly looking beyond Mars when it comes to the future of mankind's relationship with space.